As the NHL gets closer to a 2021 season announcement, the NHL rumor mill is really picking up steam. Today, we're taking another look here at some more talks between the Flames and the Bruins. We have some updates here on the Vegas Golden Knights, Tampa Bay Lightning, and some more updates as well on the logistics around the 2021 NHL return. We'll get into all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have a lot to cover today, and obviously it's really in a situation here where the rumor mill is really picking up steam as we get closer to a return for the 2021 season. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, a lot of teams have to become cap compliant. A lot of teams have unsettled rosters right now where they wanted to make additional moves, but they were basically taking the wait and see approach because of the uncertainty around the season. Now that things are looking pretty positive and we're close to getting an announcement, things are starting to happen and a lot of teams are starting to pick up talks here. Now, before we jump into the rumors, we have a couple of quick news updates. First up, we have the Nashville Predators have signed one of their prospects from the 2020 NHL Draft. And it's third rounder Luke Prokop, who's a big right shot defenseman, 6'4", from Edmonton, Alberta, playing in the Western Hockey League for the Calgary Hitmen. So it looks like he has potential there to be a really big, strong right D for Nashville down the road. So that's certainly a pretty interesting prospect for them. So he's officially signed the pretty standard entry level deal, $925 annual salary. Obviously, we're waiting for to see what the WHL is going to do this year. We don't know if he's going to be able to play or where. Is the WHL going to be able to go or not? We're still waiting on that. So it's hard to say what his development will take place this year, but either way, good signing for Nashville. And we also had an announcement from the Panthers organization that they've hired Francois Allaire as a goaltending consultant. Of course, Francois Allaire is well renowned as being an excellent goaltending coach. Of course, it reunites him with Roberto Luongo, who he was obviously a goaltender coach for a long time throughout his career and was a major influence on him and helped him a lot. So between having Luongo working as a special consultant to General Manager Bill Zito and bringing in Francois Allaire as well, that's going to be some really terrific resources that they can hopefully get Sergei Bobrovsky back to being the Vezina Trophy winning Sergei Bobrovsky from a few years back that they thought they were getting when they signed him to that mega contract. Because if he can't play better than what he did last year, that's going to be a major downfall for the Panthers to have that kind of cap hit for all those years and not get the result. So we'll see what kind of influence Allaire can have on the organization to improve its goaltending. Quick update here as well in the 2021 season, taking a look at all the different logistics that are kind of needing to be ironed out here. One thing that we're talking about is expanded rosters. Now, the NHL is expected to agree with the players for kind of having like a taxi squad. We know they're normally able to carry a 23-man roster, but obviously because of the issues this year and the complexity in calling up players and border restrictions and all that, having a larger roster would be very beneficial and make things a lot easier for the coming season. It likely wouldn't be something they'd allow on a permanent basis, but we're hearing that they might be able to carry as many as 4 to 5 extra players. It might be less, depends on what the number that they hammer out and agree to, but it's expected to have expanded roster. So you can't help but wonder, what is that going to mean for the American Hockey League? I mean, as we know, the American Hockey League has a lot of cities that are, you have to wonder how they're going to do. They're a really gate-driven business as well, even more so than the NHL, because they wouldn't sell the merchandise and all the other things that you generate revenue off of. For the AHL to have the talent kind of watered down that much more is certainly not great. I mean, if you look at the fact that there's East Coast League teams not playing, obviously NHL teams are going to have more players not at that level who could maybe jump up and replace those guys. So I don't think there's going to be a shortage of players, but it's certainly going to be a whole different product, and I do think they're going to have challenges getting off the ground as well. But that is one of the big factors that the PA and the league are negotiating on here. Teams obviously want to be able to have more roster players on hand so that they don't have such an issue getting players called up. They'd be basically stay in the home city, and obviously schedules are going to be a big one as well. We're hearing as well that they might do like a more like a baseball style schedule, or they have like a 2 or 3 game series and go and travel, and then kind of have more games come back, and just to kind of get more games in that way. So it's hard to say exactly how that's all going to work out, because some arenas are going to have more options than others, and some might have fans, some might not. There's a lot of little things being ironed out, so hopefully we'll get everything sorted and have an announcement by hopefully the end of the week or into the weekend. I know the NHL's got to get their act together here and get this stuff hammered out if they really do want to have a shot that's starting around January 13th to 15th, like we've been hearing over the past couple of days. Now, as I mentioned as well, yesterday we talked about Vegas Golden Knights and Max Pacioretty being on the trade block, and Vegas is doubling down, as with the words from Frank Saravalli of TSN, really trying hard to move that salary. Obviously he had a good season for Vegas last year, was one of their top players, scored over 30 goals, is making $7 million for a few more years, which is problematic for their cap situation, but he's not the only name that's out there. We're hearing that obviously they're kind of trying to gauge the market and determine what the return could be for guys like Pacioretty. Marc-Andre Fleury's name is back out there yet again, which is, a little bit surprising. I don't see it happening because of the fact that most teams have their goaltending lined up and situated. And then they're also looking at Jonathan Marchessault and Alec Martinez. So there's about 4 players that Vegas would really consider moving to kind of free up the necessary space. I mean, as of right now, they're about $1.5 million over the cap. And obviously, they would like some flexibility on top of that. So my guess is if you go with the big fish, Pacioretty, which would be the biggest salary, obviously the same as Fleury's, but I just don't see Fleury getting moved. I think there's a better market for Pacioretty. There's just not a lot of teams, though, that can take that kind of cap hit right now, so I'm not sure how they're going to work that out. But ultimately, he would be a guy, if you take the $1.5 million they're over, that gives them a lot more flexibility. So I think that their plan would be is to move out a winger like a Pacioretty or possibly Marchessault as a fallback option. And then they really need help at center ice. Like, they've already moved Paul Stastny, who wasn't working out there. They have William Karlsson. Cody Glass can hopefully be a center for them this year. But they really need help at that position. To me, I think they would bring back Eric Howla as a free agent and have him play center, either number 2 or number 3, depending on where they see Cody Glass fitting in. So that, I think, is what the move we're going to see. I just don't know where Pacioretty could go. If you look around the NHL, there's only a handful of teams. I know I've seen somebody bring up on social media about New Jersey being well situated, and it would kind of be somewhat interesting to see if they would do that, given the fact that we know Pacioretty and PK Subban's history from Montreal was not good. Those two did not get along. They had numerous fights and practices, and I think they were kind of responsible in a way, for things kind of being somewhat toxic at times, and that's a lot of, I think, what led to PK leaving town, amongst other things, but it did not help that, him and Pacioretty's relationship was really poor. So, obviously, I don't see New Jersey being an option for him for that regard. Pacioretty does have a form of a no trade. He has 10 teams he can say no to, and I would have to wonder if the Devils will be on it for that reason, but we really don't know. I mean, obviously, a number of years have gone by. Maybe they're willing to give it another shot. I can't say for sure. But obviously, teams like the Senators, the Red Wings, like the Kings, the Blackhawks are another team too. Like, the Blackhawks don't have a ton of space, but they have some players that could go on long-term injury reserve, and we don't really know if they're going to play or not. I mean, we've got Brent Seabrook, Zach Smith, and Andrew Shaw, who have all had a ton of injuries and significant ones, and we don't know if they're going to be able to play or not this year. So if 1 or 2 of those guys go on long-term injury reserve, then that's going to free up a bunch of extra space. Now, they do need to sign Dylan Strome, too, so I don't see that being a huge contract, though. So, he's probably getting a 1 or 2 year deal, on a fairly team-friendly contract. Like, he has produced much better with the Hawks than he did in Arizona, but still, he's not in line for a big-time, long-term big money deal or anything like that. So that should not break the bank. So the Hawks are another team to watch out for. Of course, like I said, Detroit, Ottawa, New Jersey, LA to a degree, but I don't see the Kings going there. For one, obviously they're a division rival of Vegas, so this makes it less likely. And secondly, the Kings have so many prospects, I don't think they'd want to block out their younger players from getting more opportunities too. They have enough veterans there too. So I don't know. I think a Pacioretty trade is going to be complicated, interesting, and we will see. But like I said, he's not the only guy out there that Vegas is pushing here. So we'll see if they can't find a taker for Pacioretty, if they go a different direction and go with like Martinez or Marchessault, which is the other names out there. So it seems kind of, I'm not sure that they're really going to be a better team. If you brought in Alex Pietrangelo, former captain of the Blues, that top right shot defenseman that they felt they were missing, but now you get to lose the 30-goal scorer over it, are you really a better team? I mean, your blue line is definitely better. There's no doubt he makes the blue line better, but you take away a 30-goal scorer up front, that's going to hurt. I mean, and a lot of that it's not just Pietrangelo, it's the signing of Robin Lehner, which I like the signing of Lehner better than Pietrangelo, to be honest, because I think longer term, he's a good solution in net. I mean, Fleury's a good goalie, but he's not going to be around as long as Lehner could be. So I kind of understand that move a little bit better. But we will see what happens. Vegas has a lot of things in play here, and be interesting to see what they end up doing. Now, there's also some talk that even though Anthony Cirelli's believed that not to be a player that Tampa wants to trade, that they want to trade out other players so they can sign him, there are reports that a lot of teams are kind of sniffing around trying to see if they can kind of force Tampa to make a trade and get Cirelli away from them at a decent price. Because if all the teams kind of work together, so to speak, and are not willing to take on Tyler Johnson or Alex Killorn without giving up something really significant as well, and they've had a hard time, making a move. They've tried. We've seen numerous attempts here that maybe they might be forced to trade Cirelli. I know that they do not want to. I don't really want to see comments saying they're not going to trade Cirelli. Like, I agree, they don't want to, but at the end of the day, they have to be cap compliant. And they have to either get him signed, get him traded, or trade somebody else or do something. And at this point, if nobody's willing to bite on another player, they might not have a choice but to trade somebody they don't want to. And I've been saying that all along. So we will see if a team decides to help them out. But that's the thing right now is teams don't want to help out a Stanley Cup champion. They're not having any sympathy for them. They just won the Cup. They're a really solid team. And they're going to be a really good team next year regardless of what they do. They're a very deep team. So we'll see, but there are reports teams are sniffing around trying to see if they can snag Cirelli out of Tampa. So we'll see if they can force their hand or if somebody will come along and cut them a break here and take Tyler Johnson off their hands. Now, as I mentioned as well, we had talked a number of weeks back about the Flames and the Bruins having some trade talks. And there's a new article today from the fourthperiod.com and Dave Pagnotta indicating that talks appear to be kind of re-engaging here. And the Bruins still have interest in Noah Hanifin. That has not gone away, and that is not a surprise to me. They've been wanting this player for a long time, ever since he was drafted, really. And there was also updated information in this article, though, suggesting that the Flames have interest in Bruins winger Ondrej Kase. Now, the last time we had heard about the Flames and Bruins talking, it was rumored to be either like a Jake DeBrusk or Brandon Carlo that the Flames were talking about. Now, things could have changed. I would suspect that the Bruins didn't really want to trade DeBrusk, and that they obviously got him signed right now. So I would not rule out a DeBrusk trade at some point. But for right now, I think it's less likely. And obviously, Brandon Carlo, I can see being a big part of the Bruins' blue line for a long time. I mean, clearly, the Bruins need to add on the blue line. They don't need to subtract, in my opinion. And obviously, we've heard that they're willing to trade some younger blue liners, like an Urho Vakanainen, for example, to help make that happen with somebody more established that they can get in the lineup now that's already got more experience. So Hanifin fits that description, clearly. So could we see a trade still between the Bruins and the Flames here after all? I mean, if Kase and Hanifin are the main pieces, I can't help but wonder, and this is not being reported, this is just my thoughts, if the trade could evolve into being a bigger package deal, multiplayer deal on each side, with the Flames obviously maybe wanting to get a younger defenseman back who can play, maybe not to the degree Hanifin is now, but clearly they're going to need some more help on the blue line. Maybe they take Vakanainen back in a trade, and then maybe at the same time you throw in like a Sam Bennett or another, bottom six winger from the Flames to go back to Boston to kind of level things out. The Flames would then, if they, depending on what their overall deal ends up being and what they can finagle for cap space, obviously they'd be saving money moving Hanifin's contract. Kase makes less. Maybe they go out and they sign a guy like a Sami Vatanen, for example. Because they could still use some more experience on that blue line, especially if Hanifin goes. I mean, without Hanifin going, maybe they don't, but they're going to have to rely a lot on their younger defensemen, which I think are ready for a step up on their responsibilities anyway. But if they trade Hanifin, they need something else back there, and whether or not that's Vakanainen or they dip into the free agent market or something. But according to the fourthperiod.com, talks are still kind of somewhat taking place, and there's still mutual interest. So I do think it's more and more likely here that we could possibly see this kind of deal after all. Now, there's lots of other teams that are looking to make moves, need to be cap compliant, as I mentioned. There's still some interesting looking free agents out there. So I think, as I mentioned a couple times now, we're going to see a big flurry of activity. It may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but it's going to be soon enough, probably as early as next week. I would think we'll start seeing at least a slow flurry of deals, and it'll pick up the closer we get before the teams have to report to training camps and kind of get things more sorted. But there's clearly a lot of teams that need to do something, and we're getting close to the time that they're going to have to do it, which gives us more news to talk about, which is always good for the fans. So let me know your thoughts on everything discussed here today down in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.